Yo, it's me, Captain Gold, and you're watching yet another gold standard Project Zomboid tier list video. And for this particular episode, I'll be making a tier list for vanilla traits in Build 41, and I'm going to be covering positive traits to be exact. Now before we begin, allow me to provide you with a very simple disclaimer. You see, this list is ultimately my subjective opinion, as I don't believe I can be perfectly objective with a subject like this. Regardless of that fact, I will be trying my very damn best to be objective with my placements on this list. Now, fortunately for me and you, traits are a bit more straightforward than occupations, because you can make just about any occupation work or shine under the right circumstances. Traits, however, can be objectively good and objectively terrible with very little room for exceptions and or caveats. So, with that said, almost forgot, I should also remind you that when it comes to these tier list videos, I'm actually working with bullet points and not a script. So if I miss anything or if I make a mistake, please just let me know in the comment section. That being said, let's go ahead and begin this video by covering the ass tier, which by the way will be ordered in no particular order because they all suck. So I think the very first one I'm going to cover is the fast reader trait. You see, you just don't need it. You can fast forward in single player, and some multiplayer servers literally increase the reading speed themselves. So why bother with fast reader? Now, the next trait that I would say is pretty ass would be Iron Gut. Let me move it over right here. Iron Gut is a waste. Just don't eat shit. You really don't need it. The same could be said for Fast Healer. Just don't do something stupid and don't get seriously injured. Eagle-Eyed is definitely worthless. The benefits that it gives you literally don't amount to anything. Let's see here. I would say First Aider is also pretty dumb because First Aid is typically useless as a skill unless you're in a multiplayer server with PvP enabled. And even then, if you want to be your group's dedicated medic, just pick the nurse or doctor occupation. Don't even waste time on the First Aider trait. It's kind of useless. Nutritionist is also kind of useless. You don't really need to count calories to maintain your weight in Zomboid. It's not that difficult. I'd say Gardener is also very bad because the farming skill in general is completely useless in Build 41. And you can learn crop treatment recipes via magazines. So you don't really need the Gardener trait. Resilient is also kind of garbage. If you're going to catch a cold, it's really not going to be that horrible. Just stay home, right? It's also actually kind of easy to avoid catching a cold. And if for some reason you find yourself in the situation where you're about to switch teams and join the Zeeks, just drink some bleach or take out as many Zeds as you can before you expire. I'm going to put Cook as well in ass. Now, I've been a big fan of cooking as a skill, but I've also been very clear in my comments in the past that while being good, it's not good enough to base an entire occupation around. And in the same light, it's not good enough for a trait to be based on it as well. The points aren't worth it because it's very easy to level up in game. It's worth leveling up in game, trust me, but it's not worth investing trait points into. So, just watch the cooking show skill tapes or Life and Living, and you'll be set. You don't need to waste trait points on being a cook. All right, I think that covers the ass tier. Let's go ahead and move on to the bronze tier. Now, these will definitely be in order based on a cost to benefit ratio. So let's go ahead and start off with the Herbalist. It costs you 6 points for knowledge that you can get from the Herbalist magazine. Okay, unless you're running an illiterate Wildman build, this trait is complete ass. Then there's the former Scout. You lose 4 trait points to gain a level in First Aid and Foraging. As we previously discussed, First Aid is fairly worthless, so it falls below the Hiker trait, which gives you 1 level in Foraging and Trapping, 2 useful skills as opposed to 1. The Hiker does cost, however, 6 points, and let's be honest here, you can gain both Foraging and Trapping levels by simply watching exposure survival episodes. So you don't really need these traits in the vast majority of situations. The next trait that I would put in bronze tier would be the runner. Outside of dealing with sprinters, it's completely useless. In fact, the only reason it's this high in bronze tier is because you can use it somewhere usefully, with some utility to it, but most people don't play with sprinters, and I wouldn't recommend beginners to play with sprinters. So, yeah, the runner's going to stay there. It does cost you 4 trait points, though. Not that bad, to be honest. But, yeah, if you're not dealing with sprinters, it's pretty useless. I would say the next trait should be keen hearing. Now, I know this is an unpopular pick, and hear me out on this. I know this is a hot take for a lot of people in the community. I agree, keen hearing can save your life. But you can negate the need for this trait by just being smart. Okay, you just check your 6 every once in a while. It's not difficult to spin around from time to time in the middle of combat. All right, that's just a you problem, man. It just isn't worth the 6 points. The next trait is yet another controversial one. One that you can only get from the burglar occupation, which is the burglar trait. Which, well, you have to go -6 if I remember correctly, with the burglar occupation. This allows you to hotwire cars from the get-go and also allows you to open windows more reliably. Now, as I've stated in a previous tier list video, the abilities of the burglar are vastly overrated. Finding car keys on most settings is actually really easy. It just is. That's not an opinion, that's an objective fact. You also don't need a car on day 1. You just don't. Then there's the fact that you can get to mechanics level 2 and electronics level 1 rather easily. Then there's the ability to open windows more reliably. That's something that a commenter mentioned quite politely. But, you know, if the window doesn't open, just break it. Take it from someone who plays with settings that allows zombies to follow noise for much further distances. This perk isn't all that beneficial. I mean, if the window doesn't open and the area is decently clear, just fucking smash the window open. The noise radius from a window shattering isn't as vast as you might think. That being said, being stronger also achieves the same result as being able to open a window more reliably. But it comes with better benefits. So, you know, make what you will with that information. The next trait is going to be the low thirst trait, and also the light eater trait. Water is everywhere, so why take low thirst for 6 points? Right, you don't need to save on drinking water. It's not hard to find water. And food isn't difficult to get with default hunger, so why bother taking light eater for 4 points? These might be useful if loot and food are scarce due to hardcore settings, but generally speaking, these are kind of mid traits. Then there's the adrenaline junkie, which is great against sprinters, but is rather useless everywhere else. Definitely not worth the 8 points in most situations. Next is graceful, which reduces the noise of your footsteps and also reduces the risk of you tripping. Okay, that's kind of useful, and it's all for 4 points. And inconspicuous reduces your chance of being spotted by Zeds, supposedly. Also worth 4 points. And that's kind of better than graceful. I'd rather just not be spotted. Anyways, I think the next one in the bronze tier should be Brave. Yeah. I think Brave is a good pick. Costs 4 points if I remember correctly. It reduces your need of beta blockers and is great for beginners. It's useless in the long run, but it has some good uses. Because you can't really get to the long run without the short run, right? Cat's Eyes is decent if you like going out at night. It's also great when you pair it with the Night Owl or the Security Guard. It's even better if you play with settings that make the night darker than usual, like I do. And it's all for 2 points, but it isn't necessary as being out late is easy to avoid. You don't have to be out at night. So that's why it's in the bronze tier. And now finally, we have the Night Owl. You get more hours to be productive. That's pretty nice, but it's not needed. And if you really want to stay up, or if you're in a pinch, just drink some coffee or eat some coffee. coffee beans, tea bags, vitamins. This is just it's not worth it. It's bronze level. I don't know what else to say about that. All right, I think we're making good progress here, so let's go ahead and let's do the silver tier, and we're gonna start. We're gonna start with wakeful, for 2 points. You need less sleep and you get fatigued at a slower pace, something like 30% if I remember. That's pretty damn good. Next will be outdoorsman, which costs you 2 points, and it makes it less likely for you to get sick from cold weather and reduces your chance of getting scratched by bushes or trees, which means you can run around in woods like a wild man with less caution, I guess. And, but more importantly, you can be more productive in bad weather more often or for longer periods of time, and you get all of that for just 2 points. You know, the cost of benefit there is not bad at all. Then there's lucky. This improves your loot discoveries, meaning that you're more likely to find rare items, and it also improves your repair chances. That's actually not bad for 4 points. After that, I've got gymnast. Gymnast is how you can get a boost to the nimble skill without being a police officer or burglar, all for 5 points. And if I remember correctly, it also gives you a level in light-footed? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, level in light-footed. So next I would say is the sewer. Yeah, sewing. Someone who's good at tailoring, I guess. Tailoring's pretty good, which is why this sewer belongs at silver tier. It isn't necessary for you to learn, but it will allow you to use leather patches to create armor on clothing. And the higher level you are, the more effective that armor is. So this could very well save your life. It's actually a very good skill to get an XP boost on, especially since tailoring is a very tedious skill to level up. Speaking of leveling up skills, I think handy deserves to be in the silver tier because it's rather handy to have. For 8 points, you gain 1 level in carpentry and maintenance, and anything you build also gains more hit points, and your build speed is also increased. So that's actually pretty damn good. I'm looking. This is a lot of savings in opportunity costs. Then there's the amateur mechanic, which costs 5 points and grants you 1 level of mechanics while also allowing you to work on standard and heavy-duty vehicles without reading the auto magazines. This is pretty damn good. That said, the next one I would say is the baseball player, because you get 1 level of long blunt for 4 points. Again, any boost to weaponry is going to be good, unless it's short blades. Especially when it comes to weapons that are actually good, right? You know, you want those type of boosts. Then there's the brawler. The brawler grants you 1 level to long blunt and the axe skill for just 6 points. This is pretty damn good. You know, long blunt, pretty damn good weapon class. Axe, also pretty damn good weapon class. After that, I'm going to say desensitized, which can only be gained by being a veteran, is pretty damn good. Often underappreciated because people don't seem to realize that panic still exists a couple months into the game. Just not as much. And I know people say, oh, we'll just take beta blockers. Sometimes you forget the beta blockers. Sometimes you don't find them. This is very good to have. It's a solid trait, but it's at silver tier because it's just really expensive. The fact that the only reason I put the veteran high in my occupations tier list is because the veteran also comes with levels in aiming and reloading. Yeah, desensitized on its own, it's gonna be silver trait, silver tier. The next one is the Axeman perk, which requires lumberjack occupation and is probably one of the most fucking overrated traits I've ever fucking seen. The community just loves this thing because it gives you a 25% increase to axe swing speed, which is sort of overrated in my opinion. It doesn't improve your melee damage. It doesn't improve the durability of the axe, right? It doesn't even improve the range of your attacks. It just improves the swing speed, which is something you can increase by leveling up weapon skill and fitness. In fact, you'd be better off investing in fitness levels as opposed to just investing in the lumberjack, which is why the fire officer is better. So regardless, this is still a one-trick pony that has a very good trick up its sleeve. So it'll be at the top of silver tier, and I'm not going to blame you for putting it somewhere in gold tier. Speaking of gold tier, we're finally here. Which brings me to the strong trait. For 10 points, you get 4 levels to strength and an additional knockback bonus, which is insane. But I'd say this is kind of overkill. I'd rather run stout. I know it's less strength, but it costs less as well. And let's be real, you don't need to be that strong to be effective in Zomboid. Being strong is not that important, right? I mean, it's good to be stout. I mean, at stouts, I think that's a good level to be at. But you don't need the strong trait. That's just overkill. I would say fitness is a lot more important in this game because your strength really isn't going to matter for shit if you're exerted, right? At the end of the day, winning a fight in this game really just comes down to being able to have the endurance to take out all your opponents, being the undead. That said, before we even get to those traits covering fitness, I want to talk about the Hunter. For 8 points, you get 1 level in aiming, 1 level in short blade, so if you're a short blade fan, there you go, right? You also get a level in trapping, which is useful, and you get a level in sneaking. So you get 2 weapon boosts, one being the best weapon class in the game, being, of course, firearms. And you get 1 food and or item skill bonus, which is trapping. Well, not just item. I confused that with foraging. My bad. It's just one food bonus, which is still amazing. And you get one level in a stealth skill, essentially. So it's kind of like a mini occupation that you can attach to your actual occupation. That's pretty damn fucking good. But after Hunter, there's Organized. If I can just get this to move over properly. Now, for 6 points, you get to put more shit into your containers, like closets, bags, car seats, and car trunks. This is very, very, very good. I mean, the fanny pack, I think, holds almost close to... I think it almost doubles the weight on a fanny pack, if I remember correctly. And if you like to use your cars for storage, like this is just an amazing trait. I feel like a lot of people sleep on this trait. That said, I will say the next trait would be fit. Because fitness is super important. Like I said before, it doesn't matter how strong you are if you get tired. That strength is meaningless. Which is why I think that athletic is actually worth the 10 points and why it's above fit. I mean, even Zombieland understands it, right? Rule number 1. Not being, jacked. Rule number 1 is cardio. But we all know that the greatest muscle in the human body isn't your legs or your arms. It's not your biceps, your triceps, your trapezius. It's your fucking brain. So Fast Learner is next. For 6 points, you get a 130% XP boost on all skills besides strength and fitness. And this includes weapons, by the way. This is literally a no-brainer. Then we've got Dexterous, which will save your life for only 2 points. Trust me when I say this. When you're trying to get something out of your bag or into your bag in a hurry, you're going to want this trait. It's going to save your life. I guarantee you, as a veteran who's played this game for a while, it is worth the 2 points. Be that as it may, last but not least, is the Speed Demon. That's right. Speed Demon. I almost forgot about the Thick-Skinned. We'll put that there later. But Speed Demon, for 1 point, you get to drive faster, you get to tow vehicles more easily, and you get better chances of escaping a dire situation for your car. But it does make reversing a little bit louder, however. But for 1 measly point, this trait is fucking surreal. Thick-Skinned, I say, would be in Bronze tier. I'm not sure where I would put this in Bronze tier. I think I would I would put it right underneath. Or actually, right underneath Brave. It can save your life, but at the end of the day, just don't get hit, right? Oh, and it seems my dumbass forgot about Angler. I would put the Angler right here. It's very similar to these traits. I really don't have much else to say about it. I mean, you can get everything you get from the Angler by watching Exposure Survival and reading some skill magazines. So I think, yeah, it's definitely a bronze trait. Well, anyways, with all of that said, that concludes this gold standard tier list. If you enjoy this sort of content, support your captain by liking, sharing, and most of all, subscribing. Also, don't forget to smash that notification icon as well so that you may be notified when I publish a new video. And do yourself a favor and leave me a comment down in the comments section. I do read most of the comments when I have free time. Anyways, with that said, I am Captain Gold, and I hope to see you in my next video.